Welcome back to the Glacier guys. My name's Ethan, and my co-host Joey couldn't make it today, but we have a very special guest on today. I'm joined today by head women's basketball coach here at Moraine, president of Moraine Valley Faculty Association, and Moraine Valley professor of communications and speech, Delwyn Jones. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me, Ethan. I appreciate you bringing me on board here.
No problem. Very special guest. This is the first time we've had a coach or a teacher on, so I really appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely.
So we could get started with a little bit of your background. In high school at Luther South High School, you were a four-sport athlete. You played football, basketball, baseball, and cross country.
That's correct.
You captained your basketball and baseball teams, and then some of the accolades you received were all-conference honors in basketball and baseball. You led the private school league in steals in baseball as a junior. So would you say some of those leadership qualities kind of transitioned into you becoming a teacher and a coach?
It did. It was a good experience. We had some very mature players on that were juniors and seniors that I kind of looked up to as well in each of those sports. Getting a chance to the team that won the Illinois High School Association basketball championship that year were very mature, and I kind of watched how they went about their business, how they carried themselves and so forth. And I was just a little freshman, you know.
Right.
Names that you may not have heard of, the Tony Martins of the world, the Bob Grays, the Pierre Coopers. Michael Conley played on that team. His son's in the NBA right now.
Okay.
Michael Conley Jr. But I watched those guys a lot of times, and my coaches, you know, and I look at some of their styles and how they approach things and how they pushed us, but at the same time gave an impression that they still cared. Right. You know, even though they were pushing you pretty hard. So, and that helped develop my competitive nature. You know, being able to compete and enjoy different sports, and it all comes down to the same type of approach, whether it's basketball, baseball, whether it is football. It's, you know, it's that competitive nature, and there are things that you do to win, there are things that you do that cause you to lose. So I try to bring some of that experience to the table.
Right. That's awesome that it was able to transition from your high school playing. So is this a profession as a teacher and a coach that it's something you knew you wanted to do your whole life, or did you figure it out a little like later?
I kind of figured it out a little later. I actually I've always enjoyed sports. I knew that I had a pretty good understanding of what it took to win and so forth. But both of these, teaching and actually my union work and coaching basketball, kind of just snuck up on me. Different scenarios put me in that position. And teaching, I used to be in human resources. Right. And that was my background. I also spent some time as an air traffic controller, like a lot of people may not know that.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that was interesting. But that was not something I wanted to do for a career. Right. And I decided as a grad student, I was teaching as a grad student. And so I really, really enjoyed that. And I didn't know what direction. I had majored in communications. I was in human resources for a little bit, as I said before. I did some advising over at St. Xavier University with St. Xavier College back in the day. But the one thing that I really enjoyed was teaching. So I let my human resource job go and took some part-time jobs, which some people didn't think was a great idea. But I ended up getting full-time at Chicago State University. Donda West, she's passed away now. That's Kanye West's mom. Right. Is the one who hired me. I went in and had a one-on-one interview with her, and which everyone told me not to do. You know, send your resume in to HR and wait for a response. But, you know, I went against the grain a little bit, and Donda West was one that hired me full-time at Chicago State, and then I eventually got at Moraine Valley. I've been doing that since 1994, so I've been doing this for a long time. And Bill Finn, whom I got to meet just playing basketball in the gym, and he knew I was a faculty member, and we developed a pretty good friendship. And when the coach decided not to come back, it was a last-minute thing. He asked if I would coach, and I said, yeah, I thought it was the men's team, but it turned out to be the women's team. And I said, well, I'd do this for a year and see how it goes. And then I got hooked. Yeah.
And now it's been, what, 21 years?
It's been, this COVID year was the 21st year. So
that's amazing.
It's been a good experience. Yeah. It's been a good experience. Yeah.
So you said you got hired by Donda West, correct?
Yes.
Have you had any interactions with Kanye or had a chance to meet him or no?
Yes, I got a chance to. I would see him walking around. He would be near the broadcasting booth. My major, I was teaching in communications over at Chicago State, so I was over in the broadcasting area a lot. So I got a chance to see him, but I didn't know he was Kanye West, quote unquote. And he was just a kid.
Younger at the time.
Yeah, he was young, and he would be over there running around. I'm not even sure if he was supposed to be there or not. I don't know,
right.
But I would see him on occasion, and he was just another student. Actually, wasn't a student. I don't think he was even a student at Chicago State. But and I don't know how old he was, but I would see him over there sometimes and just say, hey, and he knew who I was as one of the professors, but that was about the extent of our relationship.
Yeah. So it's such a small world. That's crazy.
Yes,
that,
it is.
Someone you didn't even know that it would be Kanye West when it is
100% true. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've been coaching for 21 years, right? And then so in June 2016, you were inducted into the Illinois Skyway Collegiate Conference Hall of Fame. How did that feel for you?
It was just a sign of some of the accomplishments that the program had made. And I literally sincerely give all the credit to the young women that were playing and giving all that they have.
Right.
It's funny how coaches can get kind of arrogant sometimes. When you win, you take credit for it. And when you lose, it's the player's fault. And I get beat up by my fellow coaches when I say this. I think sometimes coaching is a little overrated. As far as when you have a good team, you tend to win. When you have talented players, when you don't have talented players, well, sometimes you can't coach your way out of that.
Right.
So a lot of the respect goes to the players that put in the work to get better and so forth. And I think a good coach's job is just to keep everybody together, keep everybody unified, playing as one, and put the team in the best possible position to win. So I'm not saying coaching is not important. I'm just saying sometimes I think it's a little overrated. And when I was inducted to the Hall of Fame, I acknowledged the players because those players are the ones that did it. Some of them came in and need to work on skills. We worked on that. So I take a little credit, but they had to follow through.
Right.
And I've had players that I tried to work with that didn't follow through, but a lot of the players do. So that's on them. They're the ones who took the onus within themselves to try to get better and to play within a team concept. And that's how we won.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And then this past year, you were also inducted into the NJCAA Region 4 Hall of Fame in 2020. With COVID and everything, was there a ceremony for that, or how did that go?
Well, there was a little small ceremony before COVID. This actually happened before the COVID season.
Oh, so it was like right before?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we had a number of players. I'm still in good communication with the majority of my players that play all the way back from 2000,
really?
2001. Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, yes. And Facebook helps for us to keep that communication.
For sure.
And we have a Moraine Valley women's basketball page. And my assistant coach, Kathleen Zulovic, was very instrumental in getting some of these players to come in. They came in to honor my 20th season? Yeah, it was my 20th season, and to honor the Hall of Fame induction. And I was glad they were there because they are the reason that I was inducted into the NJCAA Region 4 Hall of Fame. And it just made sense for those young women to come back, and some of them traveled from different states, got on airplanes and so forth. Yeah, I was extremely, extremely, extremely touched. And one of my mentors at McHenry County College, Ken Rue, when I first came in as a coach, he told me that you can't go in expecting players to respect the things that you do for them. That's just not going to happen. And to some extent, I was feeling some of that. But when all of those young women responded the way they did, it was like it made it all worth it. You know? Yeah. So it was probably more important, and it was more of a huge gesture by these young women to do that than what they realized.
Right. Yeah. That's great, and it kind of just shows like that you really had an impact on these people, and that they were able to travel and come back. That probably meant so much too.
That meant a lot. And to be honest with you, before that happened, I probably would have said, hey, that would have been cool, but I didn't realize how much it meant until it happened.
Right.
So
that's awesome. And then on top of that, you led the 2016-17 team to the NJCAA Division II championship in Arkansas for the first time in your tenure. And then a second time in 2018-2019 where your team finished 8th in the country, which is amazing. How have you and the rest of your coaching staff been able to build such an elite program here over the past 20-plus years?
Time, relationships with high school coaches, treating the players right. A lot of the players that come in, I get from former players, that kind of helped me do some of the recruiting. And this is where I developed my theory that if you do things the right way, the key to longevity is doing things the right way and treating your players right. Even if you're hard on them sometimes, if they know that you have their best interest at heart, they spread good vibes throughout the community. And so I've received a lot of these players because of that. That team was, it was dominated by 2 6-foot basketball players, Aaron Drinan and Michelle Borgen, who've made a lot of they did a lot of good things at Moraine Valley. But it was the rest of that team as well. The point guard came in. It was through Diamond Dortch. She broke the school record for assists that year. She came by word of mouth. Aaron Drinan and Michelle Borgen had heard good things as well. There was Krista Brill, who was a sharpshooter. The coach told me about her. I had not had a chance to get out to see Oak Forest play. But the coach called me and said, I have a player for you. And that just, when you're doing things the right way, people know you're doing things the right way. They've developed some trust where you get players sometimes that maybe you wouldn't have gotten. So I think it was a culmination of all of that, getting some respect from the coaches in the community and from former players. All of that plays a part.
Right. Yeah, that's great. In 21 years of coaching, is there a specific game or moment that you would say defines your career so far, or do you have like a favorite moment?
I would want to say the first regional championship, getting a chance to go to the national tournament was something that I had pushed for. I mean, we had won the conference. I'm not downplaying the conference championships, but we had won a number of conference championships before that, but I was not able to break through to the regional championship. And I had all kinds of excuses. Other teams had more scholarships and so forth, and some of it may have been legit, but when we were able to break through, that was the best. That was the best experience that I can remember at this particular time, because that was the first one. And Aaron Drinan had like 35 points and like 21 rebounds in that game, and I was happy for her because she's one of the greatest kids I've ever coached. And so that whole experience was just a beautiful thing. We won it again with another great group of young women, but it was just the idea that first one, that's the one that sticks to me the most.
So would you say that accomplishment in coaching has meant the most to you so far?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say just that memory of being able to, and we won the game. It wasn't really a close game. We won by like 20 points or whatever. So I had time for it to soak in all through the midway through the third quarter and the fourth quarter. And I was never 100% sure the game was over until it was over. But I was able. It wasn't like it was a 1 or 2 point game. So I was able to sit back and think about all the previous years and how all of this led up to this moment and so forth. So
it's kind of like a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's a good memory.
That's awesome.
Good memory, yeah.
Obviously, this past year has been completely different than anything we've ever seen before. Do you want to explain like some of the differences maybe and the challenges you guys had to go through as a coaching staff and a team? Yeah,
there were some definite challenges. First of all, to get a chance to play, I have to give some kudos to Bill Finn, the athletic director, who really, really worked hard to try to push this season through. The season was canceled initially.
Okay.
And of course, the college is concerned. I mean, they don't want folks to get sick. They don't want things to go in a bad direction. So they were pretty conservative with that. And I was concerned too. Actually, I'm probably considered a high-risk person for COVID, and that was something that I had some concern about. But I wanted these young women to have a season. A lot of people underestimate like what some of these young women come here for. They want to go to 4-year schools. They want to get exposure. They want to enjoy their experience. And they came here a lot of times for basketball. And I have some pretty good student athletes on my team. So it's not like they're ignoring their academics. But basketball is a major, major thing that they're looking forward to. And it was canceled, and it was taken away from them.
Right.
Just like it was for a lot of the high school kids, and other schools had the same situation. But a few teams were still playing. A few teams made a decision to play, and Bill Finn kind of went to bat to get us a chance to actually play. And we didn't start off winning, and I wasn't expecting that. I was just happy that we were going to get a chance to get on the court.
Right.
And so forth. But I've had some very, very competitive young women on the basketball team, and they were not expecting losing. You know, we've had a pretty good, we've been blessed with a good winning tradition, and they were expecting to come in and win. They thought they had talent. But some of these teams have been playing since August and September and October, and they had developed continuity practices and so forth, and we had not had that. We had 2 practices before the first game.
Right.
We had one play that we didn't know. Our fast breaks were horrendous, and defense was not where it needed to be. And those are things that I knew going into it, but I was just hoping we can get the experience. But the losses started to add up a little bit. And we lost the first 4 games and to teams that we normally don't lose to.
Right.
And so that was becoming a problem. But the girls wanted to fight to get better, and they did. And we won 3 of the last 4 games, I believe, and we feel good going into next year. We have most of those young women coming back for next year, and a few freshmen coming in. Yeah, so it was a great experience. It's weird. One game, wearing masks on the sideline. Everyone is going through the same experience, right? So Moraine Valley is no different, but we fought through it, and I think we still were able to get a lot of positive out of this season and learn. And one of the things I tell my team all the time, don't take this season for granted. I always say that. Like, some of my older players may remember me saying that, because I will say it all the time. Don't take the season for granted. And, of course, the last time I said it, COVID came, and we didn't have a season.
Yep.
So that's something that is very, very vivid now, that we have an opportunity to still play and not to take next season for granted, that we come in and appreciate the moment.
So despite the difficulties, were you happy with the way that the season turned out this year?
Happy is a strong word. I would say I'm content with how the season turned out. We wanted an opportunity to be in the playoffs,
right?
Get a chance to play, to go down to the national tournament. We still would have been at a major disadvantage because we really have not had time to develop as a team the way I normally would like. But you just want the opportunity, to get a chance to go to the playoffs. But you, at the same time, you understand why things are the way they were. You have to be safe. You don't want to put folks in a bad situation. And we had 2 teams from our region not go to nationals who were supposed to because of COVID. Morton College technically had won this year, and they had a COVID incident. About a week before that, Kankakee Community College had a COVID incident, and they couldn't play the semifinal game. So, things like that happen, and then that COVID is real, and it's dangerous, and it can spread around. And so I get why Moraine was very conservative in its approach, but you still want an opportunity. When you coach and you compete, you want an opportunity to try to be the best.
Right.
And we didn't get that. So happy is a strong word. I would say I'm content that we were able to play and give the young women an experience.
Right. So for the past 21 years you've been a coach here, correct? As a professor, has it been the same? Have you been here for that long, or?
So I was part-time in 94 to 2000, normally teaching about 2 to 3 classes per semester. But I was a full-time instructor at Chicago State University, and I taught at Joliet Junior College as well for a little bit, for some classes. So, but in 2000, I was hired here full-time. So since 2000, I've been a full-time professor here, and it's one of the best decisions that I've made. I'm really, really happy at Moraine Valley. I think that we bring a lot of good things to the table for our faculty and for our students. So it's just it's been a very good experience. I love teaching. I love being in the classroom. I think I'm probably not as good of a teacher on Zoom or WebEx, whatever.
No, you're great. I can
thanks,
say from personal experience.
Yeah, that's nice of you to say that. But I like to try to bring the classroom to life. Like, I want to have fun in the classroom.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not really doing a job. It's something I get a chance to talk to minds with different ideas and different thoughts, and I learn too from the students.
Right.
Even if they are 18 or 19 years old, you keep an open mind, you can still learn things.
Right.
So it's just been a great ride for me all the way from 94 till now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, meeting a great young man like yourself who's going to be famous somewhere somehow.
I appreciate that so much. Yeah, you've been a great teacher so far, and you've done a really good job with the situation that we're in with Zoom and everything.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. Which of your teaching qualities would you say best translates between the classroom as well as on the court for your players?
The ability to be the best you can be. I mean, that's one thing that I think that you should always strive for, no matter what you're doing. And this is something that I even push to my students. You gotta, sometimes you gotta take care of business, and with coaching basketball, it's the same thing. And I always say that basketball is a microcosm for life, but so is this classroom. How you deal with different teachers. You may have one teacher who's very, very connective. You connected with the students. Then you have a teacher who's not as connected, but they have a different style. And for a student to be able, and this is why getting a degree is so important, I think, to a lot of people who want to hire you, is because you have to deal with different personalities, different teachers, different styles, different things that happen in different classes, dealing with your classmates. All of that plays a role in you getting your degree. And when you get your degree, it kind of says you were able to do that. You found a way to get it done. And that's the same way on the basketball court. Getting a chance to play, you have to deal with your teammates. You have to deal with a coach who doesn't always understand you and where you are and how you feel. And how did you deal with that? And that experience of losing and winning, some people don't know how to win and some people don't know how to lose.
Right.
And for me, that's a learning experience, and that's why this is a sophomore league for at the JUCO level, because those sophomores get a chance to go through some of that. They get a chance to learn how to deal with when you've missed 4 shots in a row. You're going to give up and quit. That kind of dictates what your personality is going to be.
Right.
You have to find a way to overcome that.
And for a lot of these athletes, it could be the last time they play on a serious level like this. So they really want to take some of these qualities with them for the rest of their lives.
100%. Like I totally agree. And I also think that a number of people don't understand the skills that are developed through athletics, not just basketball. You do have to get along with your teammates. You do have to put yourself in leadership positions sometimes. You do have to learn how to follow sometimes. Even if you're a team captain, sometimes somebody else has a different idea that may be effective.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people understand a lot of things that goes into being an athlete sometimes if you're not into sports. And it is a microcosm for life. It just is. And you have to learn confidence within yourself. A person taking a shot with no confidence is probably not going to hit it.
Right.
But a person who is confident has a better chance to put the ball in the basket. I mean, that's just the nature of sports, dealing with things, winning, losing, becoming better as an individual, taking time to become better at your craft, all of those things. Like you're going to get better at what you're doing right now.
Right.
Because you're going to look at things, you probably follow and watch other folks and how they do things, and you say, I like the way this is done, I don't like the way that's done.
Right.
And that's the part that helps to develop a person as an individual. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and like you said, with the confidence to take a shot, I feel like with sports in general, just the mental part is so neglected sometimes, and it could be more important than the physical playing itself, because you see some athletes get in ruts, like mentally, and then they're just...
Yeah, we talk about that voice in our class. When giving a speech, how that voice is 80% negative. It's the same. I use that example with basketball a lot of times because it's kind of the same type of approach. When you tell yourself you can't give a speech, that you're not good at something, or that you're going to make mistakes, well, that mindset is not going to work in your favor. And if you're at the free throw line taking 2 free throws and you're down 1 point, Is that voice telling you you're going to hit those 2 free throws and win the game? Or is that voice telling you, please don't miss these 2 free throws because you're going to lose the game? That concept works for the classroom and for the basketball court.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And I've had that in my life before, and you just have to be confident.
Yes, absolutely.
So what would you say is your absolute favorite part about coaching if you had to pick one thing?
Seeing players move on and do great things and have families and their careers are going in the direction they wanted to go. And when they come back and talk, I mean, that sounds minor, but that's huge for me. That's what keeps me going, actually. That's what keeps me going. And I have to be careful because you want to stay in the moment so you can have these experiences later with the current team. You want to stay in the moment. And so outside of that, just developing that relationship with the current players and helping them to learn how to deal with life and to deal with mistakes and to deal with teammates and, helping to develop minds. I mean, for me, that's extremely important. So
that's great. On the opposite end, would you say you have a least favorite part about coaching? Is there anything that you still maybe struggle with or don't look forward to?
Referees.
I feel like that's a pretty common answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not that. I mean, referees out there doing the best they can.
Right.
And, you get into the game and you're emotional and you try to be objective when you're analyzing things of that nature. But, they're doing their job too. I don't make all the right calls as a coach.
Right.
And players miss shots and referees miss calls. And that's just a part of the game. I'm being facetious to a certain extent, but laughing with what they say on Facebook, LBVS, laughing but very serious.
Yeah.
But that's not
exactly.
I mean, I would say some of the things, especially coaching at the JUCO level, is a little different. There's a lot more responsibilities. I have to recruit from high schools, but I also have to help my players go on to 4-year schools.
Right.
So it's 2 times the amount of work. At a 4-year school, you just recruit.
Right.
High school, you just coach and help your kids go on. I'm sure there's probably some recruiting trying to get kids from 7th and 8th grade, but if you don't recruit at the JUCO level, you don't win.
Right.
And that's the part I don't like. I do not enjoy recruiting. Never have. I don't like trying to convince somebody to do something that they don't want to do.
Right.
I mean, I know that I try to do things the right way. I know Moraine Valley is a good school. I know it's a good option for some of these schools that are going to charge you $30,000 and $40,000.
Right.
But I also understand the stigma that goes around going to a 2-year school. That's, in my opinion, it's definitely not true for Moraine in a lot of cases, but I don't think it's really true for a lot of the JUCOs that are out there. But trying to fight through all of that and try to convince a young student athlete and the parents that this is the right place to be and they're seeing it in a different way. That's the part that's frustrating to me. That's the part of the coaching game that I do not enjoy. But I know that if I don't do it, that it is not going to spell success.
Right.
So
gotcha. Yeah.
But when I get them there, then I love them.
Exactly. Exactly. Do the best you can. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
Between teaching and coaching, would you say that you prefer one over the other, or do you? I mean, I'm sure you enjoy both of them, but if you had to pick, is there one that you would pick?
I'm going to answer that question, but I feel like I've been a very, very lucky person because all the 3 major, being a part of the union is extremely important to me. I was in a situation where my first 3 years, the union was very, very effective. And I saw that, and I was a benefactor of some of the union work. And I said, I want to be able to help, faculty coming in here as well. And that's kind of what got me started into the union. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy working and developing a relationship with the administration, too. We are lucky to have a pretty good administration here at Moraine Valley. But getting the chance to develop those relationships with administration and help faculty, I enjoy that. I really enjoy being in the classroom. I enjoy teaching. It doesn't even feel like a job sometimes.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the goal, I feel like.
Yeah. And I enjoy coaching. So, my parents used to be worried that I was doing too much. My wife was worried I was doing too much. She was like, you don't have any free time. But none of this really, really work. I mean, when I was in human resources, that was work. and I was doing other things that was work, but I don't feel like I'm working now. So when you ask that question, if I won the lotto, I would still be interested in all three, but if I was able to coach full time and have the security of coaching, that would be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a real good thing.
Yeah.
I would really enjoy that.
That's great. I mean, it's great. I could tell you enjoy what you do because like it rubs off in the classroom for sure.
Oh,
no
thank you.
No
thank
problem.
you. That's important. Yeah.
No problem.
Mm-hmm.
You talked briefly about recruiting earlier. What qualities would you say that you look for in your players, maybe that you have now or when you are recruiting them?
Character is number one. Like I see some players with talent, and if I see issues or concerns with character, I really don't recruit those players. And I tell my current players too that other coaches, I'm not the only one that thinks that way. You want folks that are going to come to your institution with the right attitude, or at least open-minded to be able to learn and to develop as a person. But character to me is more important than talent, and I've learned that kind of the hard way. Sometimes when I had to let some young student athletes go because of character issues that were very talented, you get nervous. If you have a person that was a very productive member of your team, but things start to flow better every time that I'm forced to do that, the team got better. And so it's not just about skill. It's about how you carry yourself. It's how you get along with your teammates. A team, an open hand is not as powerful as a closed fist.
Right.
And when everyone is together, that's important. And a person that doesn't have a high level of character, that hurts the whole process. And the coach doesn't win. The student athletes that are with that person doesn't win. So that's very important to me. Character is like first. And then when you're looking at skill, I'm learning later in life that speed is major.
Yeah.
Yes, speed is major and sometimes more important than size.
Really?
Yeah. You still, I guess out of instinct, you still want, the post player that's 6'3". I mean, you're always going to look for that. But speed, we started averaging close to 90 points a game in the last 3 to 4 years.
That's incredible.
Doing that, and it's mainly when I started looking for speed more than talent. Like, talent's important, don't get me wrong, but speed is something that if you can get around the court in the women's game, it may not be the same in the men's game, but I know in the women's game, that's very, very effective.
That's great. Yeah. Kind of wrapping this up, if you had to pick one thing, what's the one most important thing that you want your athletes to take away once you're done coaching them?
Be a good person.
Okay.
Just be a good person, and be the best you can be. I do have this philosophy that as far as we know, we only have one life, and you want to be the best that you can be in this life. You want this experience to be the best you can be and live in the moment. That's the one thing that I mean, I know there was a whole bunch of little tidbits that was a part of that, but to me, it's all one. Being the best person you can be, being a good person, and living in the moment.
That's great. That's extremely inspirational.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. If there are any younger basketball players out there or just athletes in general, would you have any advice kind of for them looking to play at the next level or just advancing in their careers?
I do. The one thing that it's kind of sometimes frustrating is that every year you have juniors and seniors who are looking to extend their athletic career, and they don't have enough of the information. Like, do the research, open your minds up. There are a lot of different levels. You have the NCAA, Division I, Division II, Division III. You have the NAIA, Division I, Division II. But you also have the NJCAA, Division I, Division II, Division III as well. And a lot of options are out there. Some get so caught up in trying to be or go in one direction that they miss out on a lot of other opportunities that might be a better path. And some buy into some of the stigmas, especially with JUCO basketball, that don't exist anymore. And sometimes it's a better path. Sometimes not going JUCO is a better path for others. But it's just to find out what's out there, find out what your situation is, and then listen and try to learn from folks that have gone through that process before. You know, you were a sophomore in high school. You have a friend that was a senior. To talk to that person to see what their experience has been, so that maybe you can learn from what they've gone through. I know the recruiting game. I understand. I've been doing it for a long time, and I have a good idea who should go in what direction and what level. And I say most of the time, the student athlete and the parents are not going in that direction, and they could have had more benefit from going in another direction. So just to do your research. Do your research and recognize all the different levels out there, and keep cost in mind, and keep the type of coach that you're going to be playing for in mind.
Right. Yeah. Knowledge is power. Definitely when it comes to that, for sure.
Yes.
I think that should do it, honestly.
Okay.
I really appreciate you coming on, especially on the short notice. This was a great conversation. Great insight. You could find this episode on Moraine Valley's library page. It will also be posted on the Glacier. Thanks again, Mr. Jones, for joining me.
Ethan, you're one of the best. I've been doing it for a long time, Ethan. I've said this to you before. You're one of the best that I've seen here at this school. So
thank you so much.
I'm honored to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to have you on here. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
You got it.